5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes?
Almost.
Everyone good?
Hang on. Okay.
Good? Everyone good? Okay. Good afternoon. Chief Sean Lacey, Westerly Police Department. I stand before you today as the Chief of Police in Westerly and also as the acting town manager. There's been press conferences throughout the day. There was one with the governor of the state of Rhode Island, and also there is currently one that's probably just ending with the President of the United States. I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed and with some people that we have here today as to where we're going as far as the town goes moving forward. All the recommendations made by the state government and the federal government, we will move forward in enacting as far as the town goes. We were alerted this morning, as was indicated by the governor, that there was an additional cases of the virus throughout the state of Rhode Island, which was expected to see an increase throughout the state as the days continue. We have confirmed 2 of the cases came from the residents of the town of Westerly. They were juvenile children, one of which was in the Westerly school system, and one of which was a Westerly resident that went to a preschool in the state of Connecticut. To my knowledge, those 2 individuals are home on a quarantine with their families. The school department is aware of it. The school, as was said by the governor of the state of Rhode Island, will be going on spring break beginning Monday through next week. There'll be further updates through the week of the status of the schools from that point. I know Connecticut schools, our neighboring Connecticut schools, have been put on vacation indefinitely, and will be updates moving forward. As far as the federal side of things, the state EOCs are going to be in full force throughout the country. They're all being activated. Our local EOC will not. If in the event and the time it is activated, it is here at the police department, and we will hand out information as moving forward, I should say. We are not, protocols in the police department are the same, our staffing levels are the same, we will increase them as necessary. As of right now, operations at the town will remain as they have always been. The town hall will be open for business, as all the town departments will be open for business. That could change tomorrow, could change Monday, could change mid-next week as we move forward. As was mentioned, they do expect an increase of viruses throughout the state in communities, so we will change our actions accordingly based on how the viruses deploy throughout the state, I should say. So right now, the schools will be out next week. Town government is open. Moving forward, I guess we'll ask for a few words from, we have the superintendent of the schools here. He can come on up and say a few words with direction on where the school is going from here and offer some guidance for the parents and children moving forward. Mark Garceau?
Thank you, Chief. And so to reiterate, we received word early this morning that we had a student at one of our schools who had tested positive, was tested last evening, I guess, tested positive. This morning I was immediately in contact with the chief. I was immediately from there calling the governor's office. The Department of Education spoke to the commissioner and the Department of Health. And much of our day was spent going back and forth trying to figure out next steps. I know the commissioner was in meetings with the governor trying to figure out what decisive and deliberate action could be taken, and the governor went on at 1 o'clock announcing what the chief has shared here, that schools will close next week. Next week effectively becomes April vacation for us here. We had been in the position over the last week or so in anticipation of maybe having to close school, where we were working with the administrators planning how we would continue to provide instruction and supports to kids and their families, and not just instruction, frankly, but also we have a number of families in the community who are dependent on us for meals and other support services. So we were already working to do that, that planning. Frankly, the governor's decision to make next week vacation affords us the ability to get the kids out of the building and continue to work on that throughout next week. And as she said, we're kind of on a week-to-week basis at this point. We know we're going to be out next week, and it could be a week from now where we're saying kids will return on Monday, or it could say we're going to have to be extending this additionally. So we did have one student identified at one of our schools, and based on the recommendation of the Rhode Island Department of Health, students and staff from the Springbrook School are on a 2-week quarantine. So I know people are already thinking, well, you said you closed for 1 week, 2 weeks. What this means is the Springbrook School is on a two-week quarantine, and the Westerly Public Schools are closed for 1 week. Again, if we were in a position next week where we could say, all right, we need to continue with the Springbrook self-quarantine, but we're cleared to open the rest of the schools, which happened, frankly, in Pawtucket. St. Ray's was closed. Not all Pawtucket schools were closed. I recognize that St. Ray's isn't a public school, but it's a similar situation. We could be in the position where we reopen, but we might not be. So that's where we are now. Springbrook students and staff are to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, and all other Westerly Public Schools are closed for the week. We'll continue to work as an administrative team to figure out how we provide those services and instruction uninterrupted going forward. It's uncharted territory for us. We're figuring this out as we go. I thank and commend the commissioner and the governor for their support. We'll work through this together, and that's where we are.
So it's more than just the people in that one classroom where the student was. It's the whole school.
Well, I think it's important to recognize when we have any student in any small elementary school, the school's about 270 kids, they're constantly in contact with each other, whether it's through the cafeteria or riding the buses or on the playground. So in an abundance of caution, the recommendation from the Department of Health is that we self-quarantine the entire building. Okay, thank you.
Okay, also, I'll call Senator Dennis Algier up in 1 second, but the DMV services at the town of Westerly are going to be suspended after business today into the into the future, and announcements will be made as to what's going on moving forward. I think there'll be an announcement from the Department of Motor Vehicles either this weekend or Monday as to what they're doing moving forward at this point. But I could have Senator Algier come up and kind of give us an update where we're at the state level.
Thanks, Chief.
Dennis?
Thank you. It's important that we heed to the governor's advice, and that's, follow the protocol from CDC and the Department of Health. We can go through that, but we've all heard it. It's important, and that will reduce the exposure and mitigate the concerns that many of us have in spreading the disease in the community. I spoke with the governor's office. We've had a number of meetings at the State House over the past few days. Obviously, all resources are available to the town. We do wish those that are affected by the disease a speedy recovery. But the objective here is to reduce exposure and prevent the community outbreak and community spread. So collaboratively, the town and the state will work together and try to do its best in combating the spread of the disease. In the meantime, we wish people to be safe and healthy. And again, the state will do all it can to assist the town of Westerly in this situation. Chief.
I have a couple of counselors here. The president of the town council, Chris Duham, I'll have him come up because there's going to be a change in some of the agenda meetings moving forward as far as the government goes. So Chris, come on up.
Thank you, Chief. Chris Duhamel with the Westerly Town Council. I just want to enforce the idea. We've been in contact all week. This week has been eroding quickly, I'll say. Since Tuesday, Monday we had a council meeting. Tuesday we had a building committee meeting for the school. And then Wednesday, everything started to shut down. University of Rhode Island closed all their on-campus classes. I'm an adjunct professor there. Nationally, we've been canceling professional engineering testing for April. So everything started to be more and more of a concern this week, and everything is changing. And I can say that the chief has been on every issue that's evolved. The town manager, Mark Rooney, has been on every issue, and he's been informing me and the other counselors. So there's been a concerted effort to make certain that we're ahead of this game, and I want to thank the governor today for what she has done, put more security, more lanes for the town to act in, so that we get out of this and we are safe. So she's asked for less meetings, non-essential meetings, and with that in vain, Monday night's town council meeting, Sharon Ahern had suggested that we reconsider having that meeting, and all the councilors agree that it's something that we can postpone a week, that we're not going to lose any critical business by not meeting on Monday. So we're going to postpone that a week, and then we'll decide as the week goes through how we're going to handle town business from a council and public attending the council meetings. So that's that. The other building committee meetings, there was one scheduled for tomorrow for the public at State Street School. That has now been canceled. Justin Hopkins has canceled that to honor the governor's wishes. The DMV, Chief Lacey and Manager Rooney and I were talking about that last night. We were wondering if we could cancel it because it is a large group of people that assemble in the town hall. And it wasn't able to be canceled today, but we're looking at that next week, and we've asked for Senator Algier's help in that regard, and Representative Azanero's help in that regard as well. But all the other town services that we rely upon, the transfer station, that'll be open, the tax assessor's office, the clerk's office, all those essential services will remain open at this time. There's no reason to stop town business, critical town business, and thank you to Washington Trust for being open. I get to cash a paycheck today. And going forward, heeding the governor's wishes of not having large congregations, it doesn't mean that you can't go out into town businesses. Like, I have to go to Home Depot tomorrow. I want to go to Vetrano's tonight. McQuaid's, of course. Yeah. So I would just urge you to be not not to completely slow your lives down, but as someone in town, I'm going to continue, what I can do, but not schedule large gatherings of people and not attend large areas like a crowded St. Patrick's Day party, for instance. So that's the message that I heard from the governor, and I want to thank Chief Lacey for holding this press conference. We also have Vice President Jarno, if you...
You want to say a few words, Suzanne? Suzanne Giorno, Vice President of the Council, would like to say a few words.
I just, as you heard from the previous officials that came up here, and they're giving you all of the information that you need, I just want to reassure everyone that we will keep you up to date on all the latest information that we get. And I want to thank Chief Lacey as well as the superintendent and the other town officials for their proactive view in what we're doing for this and how to prepare. But I also want to bring it down to a regular note for everyone out there. This is not the time to panic. It's not the time to, get upset at each other. Be calm, be cautious, take precautions, but be kind to each other. That's the most important thing, because we will get through this. It's just going to take the proper procedures. It's going to take the proper amount of time in quarantine for those individuals that are affected. And it's going to take some sympathy for those that aren't affected currently to be able to understand that there are parents and there are families out there that are nervous at this point in time. So take this moment and reassure them that things will be okay. We just need to follow the correct procedures. So I just want to, encourage you all to be supportive of your neighbors, be supportive of this town, and we'll all get through this together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. And also the gathering numbers, I know that were mentioned, anything over 250, and I believe the seniors are anything over 10. So it's going to, and there was legislation signed this afternoon, according to the governor, and it's going to be our responsibility on the public safety side to monitor that. So if there's any events in town that are going to be hosted over 250, it's going to be our responsibility to step in and see to it that those events are not taking place at this point. They're going to be postponed and or canceled. And the same with events involving seniors. If there's anything over a gathering of 10, we're supposed to be stepping in and seeing to it that those are canceled and or postponed. But again, moving forward on the public safety side, I'm going to have Ken Richards from the Westerly Ambulance come on up and give a little overview of where they're going, some restrictions they're doing moving forward on the EMS side, as those are the ones responding along with us on several of these medical calls. So, Ken?
Thanks, Chief, for having me here. We want to let you know that the ambulance corps is responding to all the calls still. We will not change any 911 response. We are following all of the guidelines that are being issued at this point hourly from the Department of Health as well as the CDC. We can't express more the importance of good hygiene. We need people to wash their hands. This is the only way we can prevent a larger spread. We are, however, changing how we transport our patients. This is a statewide thing. But starting yesterday, the ambulance companies in the state are no longer allowing family members in the patient compartment of the ambulance or the cabs unless it's a minor or a special needs patient, as we would like to prevent further infection if possible. All the ambulances are being disinfected as normal, which is after every patient interaction. We are calling a hotline if the patient exhibits any sign of symptoms of COVID-19. We are also working very well with the Westerly Hospital, who's implementing plans. We are screening every single patient prior to entering the ambulance. We're asking patients on the 911 phone if it's possible to meet us outside. All the 911 dispatchers are also screening calls for every incident that happens in town. There will be no delay of response. We will respond as normal. We're also working with our partners at Charlestown Ambulance, Ashway Ambulance, Hope Valley Ambulance, and Starrington Ambulance to make sure that we have ambulances to respond should there be an inundation of calls throughout the town. At this time, all the ambulances are in service. We have not been in contact with any of the patients that have been questioned in Westerly, and we hope to continue to remain that way. The ambulance staff will also be arriving at homes with questionable exposure in full PPE, which includes a gown, a mask, a hairnet, booties, and an N95 respirator. We were notified this afternoon that the state of Rhode Island is going to be issuing us additional PPE that's been allotted by the federal government. We'll be picking it up on a Monday. We'll be able to hopefully share some of that with the Westerly Police Department as well. And that's really all we have at this point. We appreciate all your support. We also are restricting access to our building. Unless you're an employee or a member, we'd ask people to stay away. If you're still coming for your subscription program, we ask that you mail it in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We have also instituted some changes in our response to medical calls. We respond to usually all medical calls, but we have changed our response to any flu-like symptom calls. We're going to be dispatched, but we are not going to respond and make entry unless necessary. We're going to let the ambulance do it. And we are also in contact with the state, as Ken mentioned, to increase our supplies of masks and so forth for the officers moving forward. I guess at this point, we can open it up to questions, but in that, I would just, things can change by the hour. I mean, we can get updates 15 minutes from now, something's changing. As we know, is how much is involved in this last week since, Monday or Tuesday. And I can assure you something will change. Something will close. There'll be other precautions put in place and so forth moving forward. And rest assured, we, as the town, and EMS and fire services and all the public safety end of things through town will continue to keep everyone in the town and community as safe as possible moving forward. But at this point, I'll open it up to questions because I know there was a couple that asked when they came in, but do you have any questions, anyone?
So,
You have any? Go ahead, man. Whoever.
just to confirm, so it's a elementary school aged child and then a preschool aged child as well.
Elementary age child, second grade, Springbrook School. Preschool child, resident of Westerly, attended a preschool facility in Mystic, Connecticut.
Are they related?
They are not related. They were both treated, and they are homed in home confinement now.
And
quarantine.
is it still under investigation, potentially how they contracted the disease, or have they traveled recently?
One of them, the information that we had received, had just returned from a cruise from the Bahamas. And the other one, the information received was at an NBA basketball game in Massachusetts, in Boston last week, and had got an autograph from the NBA player that was contracted the virus.
Can you specify which case is which or no?
No.
Okay. But at this point, all precautions, I mean, shutting down a whole elementary school for 2 weeks obviously is a significant move.
Yes, it absolutely is. And again, we could be telling you tomorrow that we're quarantining another school as a result of a case, moving forward. There will be changes that we've seen. There's been drastic changes over the last 3-4 days. Question? Go ahead.
Any special rules or restrictions for businesses that are new?
And again, as was mentioned, I believe, by President of the Council, Duhamel, we don't want to go into panic mode. I mean, businesses are still open. I mean, we're not encouraging anybody not to go out and eat and not go to businesses. We're certainly encouraging, as was mentioned by Ken Richards from the ambulance, to increase your hygiene. Do not attend big public gatherings. I know one of the questions that was asked are church services. And I believe Councilor Cook indicated they were doing online services, I believe, for Christ Church, where you can watch it online. I put a call into St. Pius Church to kind of get some direction as to how they were going. I have not received a call back, but I am assuming all the church services are going to be the same, because they can certainly be well attended of more than 250, which again, that's going to be our responsibility to step in to assure that is not happening.
We also know some people are increasing their takeout services and also doing delivery services, businesses that had not previously done that as a way to reach their customers with their product and offer some additional opportunities
Services
to
for
get
the
their
people.
product out there too.
That's correct. I would assume there's going to be a lot of businesses doing that because they're certainly going to want to offer their services. I have not been advised of any restrictions town-wise as far as businesses go, our bigger businesses in the community. We have gotten no notification that anything is changing as far as their operating hours or any changes in actually, how they're operating moving forward.
Great.
Any other questions of anyone? Go ahead.
What about the testing procedure? If somebody has symptoms, where do they go to get checked out?
Well, you would go to, if you have the symptoms, there's a hotline that was put online today that's supposed to be They're supposed to be trying to increase it to a 24/7 hotline, but I think it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. now, that you can call in, go through the symptoms, the specific symptoms you have, and they will guide you from there what to do. I know they're encouraging you to not jump in your car and run to the emergency room to get treated. They want, and if in the event they feel as though you are, they will direct you in the right, the course of action, a place to go to, in fact, get tested. Any other questions moving forward?
Are there ample supplies of testing kits in this region?
To my understanding, with some of this information we're getting today, there's a couple other companies that are going to be introducing a testing product, and they're trying to push it through to get it to go through, I think, by next week, which is going to supply several million doses to the country as far as testing goes. But to my knowledge, I have not gotten any information. They're running short on testing supplies at this point.
Chief, do you know if the preschool in Mystic has taken any measures
I-
regarding their operations?
I couldn't tell you what they are, but they are aware of the situation. So I am assuming, yes, they have taken precautions and notified all the families involved that go to their facility, as to they had a student that contracted the virus or tested positive for the virus. Any other questions? No? Go ahead.
What about Springbrook School? Is that gonna be disinfected and all that?
Do you have anything to offer on that,
Yeah,
Superintendent?
absolutely, all of our
Yeah.
buildings, especially, and that's part of the reason for the closing of the schools next week is to allow the custodial staffs to get into all of the buildings and we've been doing very deep cleanings for the last 2 weeks, but with a week off, we're gonna be really digging in and doing everything we can to sanitize all of the facilities, absolutely.
Anything else? We will give you updates through our social media, town website, moving forward as to changes. As I can assure you, as I said, there will be changes moving forward, and updates that we have from the town side. We are taking our direction at this point from the state and federal level to give us guidance on how to proceed. I know the state and federal side are leaving a lot up to the local cities and towns to offer direction into the individual communities. But we're basing all our responses based on what they're offering and the suggestions that they're having. If there's no further questions, I thank everyone for coming, and we will keep everyone updated. Thank you.